How about now? Can you guys see me yet? Okay, I forgot to... Okay, can you hear me? So, sorry guys, I forgot I have to move the HDMI cable for the camera from the computer to the decoder box. So now, we're all set. So you should see me, right? Everybody see me? Can you guys... You should be able to see Sybil too. Do you see Sybil? Sybil's here. People were asking me, I put up a video about Britney Spears last night, so it's not getting a whole lot of views, but someone asked me about Sybil, and I made that video the same time right after I made the video from the night before, and so Sybil had gotten sick of sitting with me, so she had just moved to her bed. That's why she wasn't in last night's video. But yeah, she's doing great. She's eating normal, and she's eating all her treats, and she actually came looking for me just a few minutes ago. It's like, almost like she knows when it's showtime, and she comes looking for me. So how's everybody doing? I was going to ask Rich Lux to make a call in today, but I didn't end up being able to touch base with him last night. Thanks, Rebecca. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, it's, you know, the two that I made that were not about the McBrooms before that, the pink sauce one and the, oh Christ, what was the other one about now? I can't remember, but those two videos did pretty well. So, I mean, not like super great, but they did pretty well. So I was encouraged that, you know, more people are starting to watch the ones that aren't about the Ace family. But talking about the Ace, yeah, so if you haven't seen the Britney video, do me a favor, go watch it afterwards just to get the views up a little bit, because it's, I mean, it's doing really not great at all. So, but anyways, yeah, Sybil loves me. She came looking for me, giving me this, she has this faint little cry that she makes when she's feeling neglected, and she came looking for me when I was upstairs just before I came down, and she was sitting there looking at me going, meow, meow. But, so, there's a story about, that, and I saw Sloan had mentioned it briefly in, one of his videos from the other day, and somebody had sent me an alert letting me know, but there's a lawsuit over the McBroom's old, failed try that product called Silly Juice. And I have a lot more information about it, so tomorrow I'm going to be doing a video about the Silly Juice lawsuit. And I gathered up all the information and did my research yesterday, so I'll put it together and I'll get that up. Hopefully that'll be up for tomorrow night. I'll probably start editing in the morning so I can get it done. But so I have that one to do too. And then there's a couple of other suggestions. So, you know, you guys, I really want some TeddyTube. I'm glad you've got the bell on. Thank you. You guys should turn the notification bell on if you haven't, because it'll always let you know when something's going on here. So anyway, so what I was going to say was, you know, some people have sent me some really good video ideas in the past week. So if you guys want to send me something, don't leave it in the comments. I mean, I do read all the comments, by the way, just so you know. Oh, Sybil's going for a walk, but she'll be back. Oh, here she comes now. She's very fickle. She changed her mind. But I do read the comments, but a lot of times what happens is after I respond to the comment, I don't see it anymore unless I go back and show me all the ones I responded to. So if you leave me a video idea there, I'll see it, but then I'll forget about it because I don't usually write things down while I'm doing stuff on the computer. So if you can send me any tips to catstertips, it's all one word, CATSTERTIPS, and I'll put it in the chat here, at gmail.com. That would be great. So that I will most likely see. Like someone had sent me the heads up about the Silly Juice lawsuit, but I think they had sent it to the MadCatster main email, and I missed it because I get a lot of junk mail in that one. And unfortunately, I didn't see it. And thankfully, they told Rich Lux to let me know that they had sent me an email. But if you guys send it to Catster Tips, I'm sorry, that's not .com. Oh Jesus, what am I doing? Catster Tips. I'm sorry. Let me change this at gmail.com. So, hey, from Finland. Hey, Anna. Hi, Gina. Hi, Nella. Rebecca. Yes. Did I know? No. You know, Rebecca, what's really funny is last year, like at the end of the year, I had actually emailed the guy who's the head of Langer's Juice, who is the one actually who instigated the lawsuit against the McBrooms and their partners. And he wanted to talk to me about it, and you know, I kick myself now because I didn't call him back. And I wish I had, because it was before he filed the lawsuit, and I bet you he would have given me the whole dirt. I may still try to get in touch with him and see if he'll still talk to me. But yeah, I was very surprised to get a message from him. I was like, oh wow. Because I just sent a general email like to the Langer's box, and I was surprised that the like CEO was getting back in touch with me. You can't see her, but Sybil is still here. She's sitting right here. She's just sitting on the desk right now. She likes to be held, but then she likes to sit. Let's see. So, yeah, Nella, thank you. Please watch the Brittany video. I'm glad you guys liked it. Max, sorry you're stuck at work, but I'm glad you're joining us. Yeah, Rebecca, that's why I think I am going to get back in touch with him, because I bet you he can give me some more dirt on, like, the background more than what's in the lawsuit. So yeah, so I think I will get back in touch with him. But I've been thinking about, I know a lot of people liked the true crime video. I mean, it's not doing the greatest, but it's doing okay in terms of views. And I want to keep making those, you know, it's not like, I'm not pulling a Deaf Noodles. I'm not changing my format. I'm just adding some stuff to try to diversify a little bit. I'm trying to think of what the next one I'm going to do. What would you guys think if I stayed at the Lizzie Borden house in the room where the stepmother was murdered, and I did a live stream from there? What would you think about that? Like maybe not for Halloween, because the place I'm sure is already booked, but and I'm sure it's expensive even when it's not Halloween. So, but I thought, you know, like maybe sometime during the fall I would go there and stay and maybe do a live stream from the stepmother's room where she was killed. And they've actually, the whole house has been restored, and it's they put the on-site stuff could be fleshed out better. Nella, can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean by fleshed out better? That's just so I know what you're talking about. But anyways, they restored the house, so it looks exactly like it did when Lizzie Borden lived there. And even the furniture, they've even matched all the furniture. It's really creepy because they've matched like all of the furniture, even like the couch that the father was killed on. They found a couch that's identical to that, and like the furniture in the stepmother's room is exactly the same type of furniture that you see in the pictures from the crime scene, and it's really creepy. So I thought, well, that might be fun. You know what I mean? Everybody does like a Lizzie Borden, not everybody, but you know what I mean? People who do this true crime stuff, everybody talks about, hey, Kelly M, thank you so much for your super chat donation. I thank you very much. But anyway, so I thought, well, instead of just making a video about Lizzie Borden, why don't I go there and actually do something from the house, you know, so that we can sort of have like a nighttime kind of creep fest live stream just to see like what's going on, see if anything bizarre happens while I'm there. Plus, I'm to be honest with you, I'm a little scared to stay there, only because, not because I think anything's going to happen to me, but I kind of do. I mean, I'm not like a true believer, fanatic and like spirits and things, but I kind of do believe in like energy that sticks around, and so I am a little scared to stay in that room because of the violent crime that happened there, but and the energy that might be in that room just kind of creeps me out. But but I'm game, So Halloween would be a bad time? Yes, you are exactly right, Mary, and that's what I was saying. It wouldn't be for Halloween. There's no way. Although I may do a Salem special for Halloween. What would you guys think about that if I went? Because Salem's crazy at Halloween. But what am I drinking today? Yes, Rebecca, I'm always drinking tea. I was drinking, believe it or not, I stopped drinking coffee, not for any particular reason, but because it's gotten to the point, I don't know, I guess you change when you get older, but like it's just so, the aftertaste is so bitter from coffee that, and I've always liked tea, so I started drinking tea like most of the time, and I stopped drinking coffee, but then my mother was telling me, and then I looked into it myself, but as I've gotten older, for some reason, I have allergies, and sometimes I get asthma, and my asthma had been flaring up, and my mother said that she had read an article about the fact that I guess coffee, for some reason, helps alleviate it, and so I looked it up, and sure enough, I found exactly what she was talking about. So I've started drinking coffee in the morning, but then I absolutely go back to tea. I like tea and honey. I don't put milk in it. The Conjuring House, yeah, ale, but I just saw something even recent from the Conjuring House. A lot of people have done that house. Believe it or not, my ancestors on my mother's side, they come from that area in Rhode Island. And actually, I think I'm related to the family, the Strongs, I think was their name. Was it Strong? I can't remember the name, but the people that owned that house originally, that built the house, I'm pretty sure they're relatives of mine. Not the people who got haunted, but the people who maybe are doing the haunting, I don't know, are relatives of mine. Yep, I've been to Lizzie's gravesite, Teddy Tube. So yeah, if I went down there, I would visit, and her house, after she killed her parents, and well, she was acquitted, but we all know she did it. She was pissed because she felt that her father was really stingy, and he had bought houses for her stepsisters or something, and so she was really pissed, and she always wanted to live up on the hill where all the wealthy mill owners live. And they actually, I have been by the house before, but it's down near where the mills are, the old mills. They're not working anymore, but the house on the hill that she and her sister moved into after she was acquitted, it's still there, and it still has, it's called Maplecroft, and right on the granite front steps it says Maplecroft still. So it's pretty much the same from when Lizzie built it. The house is still there, and so I would go visit all the places that are connected to her, as well as to the cemetery, which I've been to before, and then stay overnight in the house and do some kind of a live stream from there where we could all talk. Yeah, it is Rhode Island ale, and it's it is close to the Mass border. Yeah, Salem and Halloween, it's I've been to downtown Salem on Halloween, and it's insanity. It's tens of thousands of people pour into downtown Salem, and it's crazy. What's the Lamb House? Still Motivated Wolf. What is the Lamb House? And again, you guys, if you have ideas, email me. It doesn't have to be anything long. It could be just a link or whatever, or a sentence. But send it to catstertips@gmail.com, and those things I compile and keep in a folder, so that when I feel like I've got a slowdown in video ideas, I love to be able to pull from the suggestions you guys make. Lon Lumber did a deep dive on Lizzie Borden. You're not so sure she was guilty? I mean, it's possible she wasn't, but in terms of motive, it just, I don't know. It just seemed like it was a pretty solid motive to me, but you're right. I mean, she could be innocent. New Orleans, I actually have cousins down in New Orleans, Teddy Tube. I have cousins that live in Metairie, which is right outside New Orleans, and unfortunately they're very racist down there. Not everybody, of course, but my cousins actually, the last time I was in New Orleans, I went with my sister and we didn't even tell our relatives that we were coming because we didn't want them to know because they're so embarrassing. It's just really, it's shocking to me that people still can have those attitudes. And what really kills me is their father, my great uncle, he came from New England. He's French Canadian, and so he didn't grow up with those ideals and those beliefs. So it's all a Southern thing. It really is. It's like, it certainly wasn't because that's how their father was raised, but for some reason it's a toxic environment down there. No Sense in Me, thank you so much for the donation. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, serious. Sybil is cute, and she loves to, like, she clings to me. Teddy Tube, I will check out the Lawn Lumber thing. I can't remember. I think I know them, but I can't remember if I've looked at it. Yeah, and there's, like, but isn't Marie Laveau the woman who was, like, the voodoo queen? She's not actually buried in New Orleans. I think I saw something. I like to watch those, like, graveyard tours. And here, this is Edith. Edith is here. Do you see her tail? I like to watch I love old cemeteries. That's a big thing of mine. Since I was a kid, I've loved cemeteries. And Max, thank you so much for the donation. I really, really appreciate it. But I've loved cemeteries ever since I was a kid. People are always creeped out by cemeteries, but back in I think we've talked about this before, but back in the day, thank you, Laureen, very much. Laureen, and I believe Laureen is one of our Amazon angels as well, so thank you, Laureen. Yeah, Rebecca, I like those are two of my favorite things: true crime and cemeteries. There's this one woman, she's a small channel too, and she's from Ireland. Her name is Serenity Sue, but they go to all these really atmospheric old Irish cemeteries, and they find all these, like, old crypts that people have, like, broken into, and, like, they show all the time. They're showing, like, skulls and skeletons, which I find fascinating. A lot of people might think it's gross, or some people think it's disrespectful, and I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that, about people who videotape the remains. It's not like they died yesterday. These are people who have been dead for like 200 years. But what I do think is it draws attention to the fact that these places are in such neglect that, these communities should be ashamed for letting these cemeteries become vandalized and deteriorate like that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves is going to a cemetery where there's been, and actually I'm not going to tell you all the details, but I went to war with a historic cemetery near me a while ago now. It's been a few years, and I was actually on the front page of the newspaper because I raised such a ruckus that they actually banned me from the cemetery, and I called them out because they're one of those beautiful old garden cemeteries, and all of the tombs, the doors at some time, I guess, had rusted off, and they had put plywood in all of them, and grave robbers, or they're not really grave robbers, they're kids, would come, and of course, getting through plywood is nothing, and it wasn't secured very well, and, they robbed some of the remains, and it was just, I was so outraged that I actually got on the news, the nightly news, and I'd gotten a copy of they're a non-profit supposedly, and they're a private cemetery, even though they're historic, and I'd gotten a copy of their tax return to show how much money they had, and the fact that they have an active crematorium that actually brings in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and yet they were letting all of these historic tombs deteriorate. And I shame them enough that they actually ordered custom cut granite slabs, and they sealed all the tombs. So now all the tombs are sealed up with granite, and it not only looks better, but it's more dignity to the people that are there. And see, so if you don't draw attention to it, then people just don't give a crap, to be honest. to be honest with you, and it's true. They don't. Like this place, if I hadn't done that, it would still be like that. You know, and there was one, the one that really set me off was there was a little tomb. And they sort of like built into the hillside, you know, of a mother and her infant child. And I could look, there was such a big hole in the wood, I could look right in, and there were their bones scattered all over the inside of the tomb. And it just outraged me. So I said, you know, fuck them. And I actually was on the front page of the newspaper 3 times. The final time being when they finally capitulated, and they actually rescinded their no trespass order so I could go back in the cemetery. It's like, why are you... I had a meeting with their trustees. I'm like, why are you banning me from the cemetery? Because I'm drawing attention to the fact that you guys aren't doing maintenance you should be doing on a historic cemetery? It's like, you know, come on. You know, it's not... I mean, when I say historic, I mean, like, there are, like, really prominent people buried there. There's, like, people buried there who were part of the Underground Railroad back in the day, and you know, just a lot of historic people who aren't extremely famous but who are prominent enough. And it was like, you know, it's this beautiful place. You know, it's got beautiful... They would bring in trees from all over, and they would make like an arboretum in these cemeteries. So it's got all these beautiful trees and rolling hills, and just, you know, it's just a beautiful place to go. I actually took my coworkers there, my employees from a job I used to have there, and we sat on one of the big tombs and had lunch one day. Any comment on Ivana's burial place? I don't even know where she's buried. Honestly, I honestly don't care, but so tell us, Miter, tell us, what is the deal with Ivana's burial place? You used to do tomb etchings. Yes, and you know, but Laureen, they now don't let people do like grave rubbings anymore. If that's what you're talking about, or do you mean like art, like freehand? But in terms of like grave rubbing, used to be a really popular thing to do, and they don't let people do it anymore because it was causing damage to all the old stones. So, Miter, no expensive coffin. No, I want to be cremated, and I have all of the ashes of all of the cats I've had in different like custom-made urns and boxes, and I already left instructions with my family that when I die, after they cremate me, I want them to dump all of the cat's ashes in with my ashes and just bury us all together. Bring a Ouija board to a cemetery, or I could bring one to Lizzie Borden's house. You know, if I go do that, we could do that. What's Randonautica? Why? I don't understand. What's with that? Yeah, the loved ones, their loved ones did pay a pretty penny for those burials, and in fact, I had looked up the records, and almost all of those tombs they paid extra for what's called perpetual care, and that means it's supposed to be maintenance forever, you know, and the cemetery wasn't taking care of them. So I thought that was outrageous, and it was, you know, like I said, it wasn't a broke cemeteries. I would have had sympathy if they had no money, but they have money, and in fact, their director drives around in a company-paid Lexus, so they can afford to give their goddamn director a Lexus, but they can't keep up the graves. Do they have records? Yes, they do have records. So, and I'm sure the records are in good order, because it's, like I said, it's a profession. It's not like a neglected or abandoned cemetery. It's very, it's still very much an active place, and it's, you know, they do, in terms of like grounds care, they do keep it, you know, they keep it mowed and trimmed, and, you know, so it's not like it's all over. It's not one of those cemeteries where like the tombs are all falling down. The tombs weren't even falling down. It's just the doors had rotted off, and they just hadn't bothered to do anything permanent to fix them, and so it just was ridiculous. So anyways, what did the cemetery dates range? I think from the 1700s and up to the present day. With a lot of the burials happening in the 19th century. Actually, no, I take that back. It opened at the very, very early in the 19th century, if I remember correctly now. And it was like the place to be buried at the time. So it's a nice place. Yeah, it is frustrating they didn't care until I got involved. But see, this is why I've never been afraid to speak up. And, if I make enemies that way, I don't really care. But the fact that, what was I going to say? Oh, the fact that these things happen, if you don't speak up about it, and like in this case, like I said, it wasn't a question of money. It was just a question of they just didn't give a shit, So that's why I always speak up when I see things like that drive me crazy. Are you serious? Was she really buried next to the first hole of the Bedminster golf course? Are you serious? You're not serious, right? They allow that? Can you? I didn't think you could just be buried anywhere. Hi, Tanya. After Dark Paranormal. Hi, Stephanie. We were just talking about the paranormal. Yeah, Smooth Luna. I'm adamant, and actually it's in my will. Even, and I'm not planning on dying anytime soon, but that they are to mix my cat's ashes with my ashes, put us in a big box, and I still haven't decided where it's going to be put. I'm actually kind of leaning towards the old Hollywood Forever Cemetery because I lived in Los Angeles for a little while, and I love it out there. And they've been building like new cremation niches in like the historic old mausoleums, and I thought, oh, that would be so cool to be buried there, because it's not like there's anybody going to be visiting my grave anyway. Golf course tax exemption. Well, why do you get a tax exemption for being buried in a golf course? You don't get a tax exemption for being buried in a cemetery, and a cemetery is a non-profit. In New Jersey, the government can't seize your assets if your family is buried there. Is that true? I don't understand that either. Yeah, Stephanie, absolutely. It's like, that's why people always get creeped out when they come to my house, because my cats are on my bookcases, and people always go, are those ashes? I'm like, yep, it is. And now I've got quite a few of them, so because I've had quite a few cats over the years, but they're all there, and I always take and clip off, oh, Gilles here, I clip off some of their fur and I put it in a plastic baggie and I stick it in the urn with the ashes, so that I always have like a bit of them still. I know that sounds weird, but my cats matter so much to me. You have to pay for a cemetery plot every couple of years. Yeah, Max, it's like that in France too. They recycle. That's why, like, when I went to France to do genealogy research, I was very surprised to learn that there are no graves of any of my ancestors that still survive, because they turn over. I think it's every 10 years. They it might be sooner than that. But yeah, if you don't pay for like a lease on the grave, then they will dig you up and put you in what's called a charnel house, which is basically like a communal bone pit where they put whatever's left, and then they recycle the grave, because space is at a premium. So but it is weird. It's like, I'd rather be cremated and have my ashes scattered than have them dig me up and throw me in a pit. Plant and grow into a tree. Actually, near Boston, there's a big old cemetery called Mount Auburn, and Mount Auburn was like the first. I think it was the first Victorian garden cemetery, and they've started. It's the burials go back also to the early 1800s, and actually the famous landscape architect who did Mount Auburn near Boston also happens to be the same guy that designed this cemetery I was telling you about, where I had called them out. So they're both very historic places, but they have a section now where you can have what's called a natural burial, where like they basically put you in a winding cloth like they did back in the old days, way back, and they'd spare you without any coffin or anything. Yeah, Medea, especially like London, they've literally run out of space, and I know they have like this big mausoleum now that I think it's underground, and like you can take an elevator down, and most people there now get cremated. You buried them in your backyard? Aw, that's so nice. You know why I don't bury my cats? Because I've lived in different places. I mean, I own my house now. But it's like, well, if you leave, then you like my first cat, still bothers me that, you know, in the house we lived in when I was a kid that my parents don't live in anymore, she's buried in the backyard there. And it's like, you know, it's not like I can go visit. So that's why I always get my cats cremated, because I like to have them with me. And I know that if I move, that they're coming with me, and I'm not leaving them behind where somebody someday is going to be doing some kind of work in their yard, dig them up and, you know, basically disrespect and toss them out or whatever. Yeah, the Smooth Luna, those charnel pits drive me crazy. It's like, I don't know if any of you've ever been to Paris. Kelly M, thank you so much. Oh, to Sybil from Jupiter. So Sybil's glad about that. That will buy, I don't know what I guess I'll get her some special treats. But in Paris, I'm sure most of you have heard of the catacombs, and I've been to them a couple of times, but it's so creepy because you got all of these bones stacked up. All, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and it's just so weird. It's like, you know, they dug up all the cemeteries in Paris and put all these bones, and it's not like they kept people together. You know, it's like they randomly piled bones, and sometimes they pile like the same type of bones and skulls together, so that they're just like all mixed in now. So, you know, you'd never be able to identify anybody, but it's like, God, that's so weird. You don't even know who these people are anymore. Yeah, Medea, I know they found King Richard under a car park, and I thought that was so cool when that happened. And actually, that woman who was behind that, she's been looking for King Henry II's grave in Reading Abbey, which is a ruin now. And they thought they had a couple of hits, and it turned out not to be. And she's looking for him right now. And actually, he's one of my ancestors. So I had emailed her and said, hey, if you find him, I would love to come when they rebury him. And she was like, yeah, that'd be fine. So the cathedral made, oh yeah, that grosses me out, Max. Where is that? Is that Spain or Italy? It's one of those two, where they have, and in some of them, like, they build altars and things out of bones. It's just so gross. Thank you, Rebecca. So, where are you, Rebecca? So you're 6 hours. Are you in Europe? I don't think I ever really have asked you where you're from. Yes, the killing field in Cambodia was a place to visit with all the skulls and bones. Oh, are you serious? That's so gross. Oh, that's so sad that they just left the bodies there. That's really sad. You know, and I always wish I had a lot of money, because I would love... Oh, you're in Germany. You live in Spain. Okay. Excellent. Oh, well, Spain's a good place to live. Actually, that was one of the places I was looking at to retire. I know there are a lot of British people there in the south. Oh, Rebecca, where in Germany? My great-great-grandmother was from... oh, Jesus. I'm really bad. I haven't been sleeping well, and I'm, like, forgetting... She's from in South, the city that got firebombed at the end of the war. That always makes me cry. Oh, Jesus. I can't think of the name right now. But she's from there. She was born there, and before there was such a thing as Germany, it was the Kingdom of Saxony, I believe, when she lived there. Because I know when her father became a citizen, he had to swear off his allegiance to the King of Saxony, because it's on his naturalization paper, and this was in the 19th century. So they used to make you do that. Now you can have dual citizenship when you're American, but it used to be up until not that long ago that if you became an American, you had to give up your citizenship. Most of my other ancestors came over Dresden. Yes, thank you, Taro. My God, I'm so bad. And actually, my her father, because her parents got married and met in Ohio, her father was from Baden-Baden. So, which was, I believe, like a Grand Duchy or something in the 19th century. So there was no such thing as Germany until the end of the 19th century. Yeah, the tarot, before I even knew that my great-great-grandmother came from there, I was fascinated with that story, and it just always made me so sad that that was done to that city when it was right literally at the end of the war. It was not a necessary target. It was purely out of spite, and that's one of the things that I'm ashamed of as an American, is that we did that. Fled Europe due to famine and war. Yep, my French ancestors left their city because Louis XIV was waging war all over the north. What used to be called the Spanish Netherlands when my ancestors lived there. It wasn't part of France. They were actually Flemish, and he left and came to Quebec because half the towns around him had been conquered, and his town, which is still there, which I've been to, which is still pretty much intact, and thankfully the two world wars, because that was like the lines were near there, so a lot of that area got decimated in the fighting, but it survived both world wars. So it's amazing to me that I was able to go there and see it pretty much the way it's always been. But it's actually a city. It's a small city, but he came over because of what was going on, and actually 3 years after he left, Louis XIV's brother, the Duke of Orleans, he conquered the town, and my relatives were still living there. His parents were still living there, so they then became French. So it's kind of weird, the way things changed and the way territories switched. But they still, to this day, they speak a Flemish dialect in one section of the town. Like there used to be, like my ancestors had windmills where they ground grain, and they still in that little area. And the French government's terrible because they won't sanction any other languages but French, even though there's all these different territories that they've annexed over the centuries that still speak different languages. And yes, Lorraine, I'm half French and half English. But yes, I am French. And actually, I have a friend from France who is kind of a snot, and is very proud of being French. And one day I got so sick of listening to him that I came home and pulled up my genealogy software, and I printed out a map that had little dots everywhere in France I have an direct ancestor from, and it was literally like spread all over the French map. And so I brought that to him one time we were playing tennis, and I said, look at that. And he goes, what's this? I said, well, that's where I have ancestors from all of those places in France. I said, so I'm more French than you are. So, because I have people from all over France. So I've got French blood flowing through me from everywhere. All the cats talk French? Where? What's really weird is when I was growing up, my great-grandmother and my grandmother spoke Quebec French like all the time, and they spoke to their relatives in French, and we still had relatives up there that we would go visit. they never taught their kids. Like my mother, she didn't learn French, and I didn't learn French. I had to take it in school, which I took it for a long time. But Huguenot ancestry, yep, I have some too, actually, Nella, and they were from Normandy. There's places in Normandy where there were a lot of Huguenots, and that's where mine lived, and then they went to Quebec after that. Probably, I think it was during when like they were really cracking down on the Huguenots, and I forget which king it was that like revoked the Edict of Nantes. Commentary Dolores content. Oh, I'm so glad. Thanks, Still Motivated Wolf. Yeah, well, like I said, I don't write scripts. Like I know a lot of people write scripts, but what I do is I look French. I actually have. When I was a kid, I had blonde hair and I have blue eyes, and I burn like something. So I might have northern French up, near the Belgian border where my family comes from, but I certainly don't have like dark French in me. Although my grandmother had dark hair and dark eyes. Tanya, I do ancestry stuff. I've been doing it for years. I love doing it. It's like you never know what you're gonna find. The Italian mod from the Great Depression, or do you mean mob? You're Australian, but you love your Peugeots. My father used to have a Peugeot. I don't remember it being a very good car. I think he had to fix it. Like, it was always being worked on, I remember. Oh yeah, what I started to say, Still Motivated Wolf. I don't write scripts like most people do. What I do is I really read thoroughly through everything, and then I just like mix it up all together in my head, and I just do it in a straight shot without any notes or anything. So that's how I do my videos, and then I go back and edit, obviously. But the first one I did, I think I started to use a script. Oh, thanks very much, Dreamweaver. I appreciate it. Loving your content. Thank you very much. But I think I started to use the script on the first one, and it didn't sound right. It sounded so mechanical, because no matter how hard you try when you're reading from a script, it doesn't sound natural, And so I just said, I'm not using scripts. I'm just going to, make sure I do my research and I know the material, and I'm just going to do it. And, that's when, like, if I come up with, like, a zinger off the top of my head, that's because I'm not using a script, and it's just like, as I'm flowing, something pops into my head and I just spit it out. So, hi, honey buns. Sounded so scripted? Yes, it does sound scripted. You're a brunette, but you have gray eyes. What's your ethnic background, Nella? But anyways, I did take French, like I was saying, for years in high school, and I started in 5th grade and went all the way up through, and I took a little bit in college. But I'm not like fluent. I can read pretty well. If you give me a magazine or a book in French, I can pretty much understand most of what I'm reading. But to try to talk, forget it. And the few times I've been to France actually a lot, but when I go, I can't have a conversation. I can get by, but I can understand a lot of what people are saying, but I have trouble. Have I considered a podcast? Yes, I have, and I'm thinking seriously about doing it. Thanks, Tanya. I'm glad you like it. Irish, Scottish, and a little Germanic. Well, yeah, there you go. So you've got, and actually, even though my paternal line is from France, my DNA comes up like Scandinavian, Northern European, and I have a lot of distant matches with people in like England, Scotland, Ireland, and it's not because I have ancestors, although I do have some Scottish ancestry, and I do have English ancestry, but the reason why, like, the bulk of, like, I should only, if that was the case, if it was just because of ancestry, I should only have about half my DNA from there. But, like, most of my DNA is from that, like, set of population. But it's not because I have a lot of ancestors from there, it's because I have probably like Saxon or Anglo-Saxon blood, and it's when they went from Northwest Europe over to the British Isles, and they actually displaced over time like the native population of Brits, and eventually the people that came from the continent ended up being the dominant population. So I get a lot of matches flag up in my DNA matching from all over the British Isles because of that fact that they went from Northwest Europe over to the British Isles. Anyways, sorry, I ramble, I know. The Ozarks and Appalachians, my Ohio relatives are from the Appalachians. They're from the very south of Ohio near the Kentucky border. Yeah, I would like to do a podcast. You know, I'm still trying to figure out how you promote that. They spoke Hungarian and German all the time, right? And you know, I think part of the reason they never taught kids the languages like that was because they wanted them to be American. But it's such a shame because it's, you know, it's like this loss of this cultural heritage that, you know, it would be so nice if they had taught these languages to their kids and their grandchildren. Your mother had Northern American indigenous, so you mean like Native American? Allegedly, like one of my, I think it's like my 4 times great-grandmother was supposed to be from a tribe in Virginia, but I've never been able to find any actual proof of that. So I never like lay any claim to it because I don't know. It could just be one of those, you know, stories that got started over time, you know, and a lot of people who have ancestry in America going back far enough always say, oh, I've got Indian blood in me. It's like, well, most of the time it's not true. It's like, you know, my mother said my great-grandfather used to always say that his grandmother wore the feathers. And I've never been able to find a single ancestor in his line that was Native American or Indigenous Canadian or anything. So I think it's a you know, an old family story that's just lore, that's not really true. So the chat's kind of slow, you guys. What's going on? So what do you think I should do videos on next? What's like what stories have you guys been hearing that you think deserve some more attention? You know, a lot of people have been talking about, and someone had suggested to me that mother on TikTok who exploits her daughter allegedly, and that she was really called out about it, and she's like basically justified everything, and it's kind of gross to me. So I've thought about looking, you know, more at that and talking about that. But what do you guys think? Ren, yes, correct, Nella. It's Ren. Edith is here. Edith is... Can you see her? Edith is here and she's pushing my microphone around. Spooky true stories. Historical murder mystery? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which one I'm going to do next for that. I do have one that I started to put together that I might try to finish. Max, your family's British on both sides? Oh, that's interesting. Your last name is Porto. Okay. Her last name is Porto. Yeah, I found, I got my DNA tested again, and they've like refined the process now, and they told me that I'm 4%. One company says I'm 4% Spanish or Portuguese, so Iberian Peninsula. And one company says I'm 4% Sephardic Jew, which comes from those two places. And I started going back, and they said they estimated it was like great-great-great-grandparent. So I started going through like my French-Canadian ancestors, and sure enough, I found somebody, and they weren't Jewish, or they weren't, at that point, they weren't Jewish anymore. They were Catholic, but I found a name that stuck out to me, and her name was Paolo. And I said, well, that's not French. That's not a French name at all. So I looked up, and sure enough, that is a very common name, both in the Iberian Peninsula, but also in Sephardic Judaism. The last name Paolo is a name that's listed as one of the surnames from, like, they called them conversos, where during the Inquisition, they were forced to flee or they were forced to convert to Catholicism. I think that's probably what happened. They converted to Catholicism because it was, a matter of life or death, really, in some cases, but also like of economic ruin. Robert, my black cat reminds you of your buddy? Oh, I'm glad. She actually has a biological sister, Mary, who's laying in her little bed, and she's very lazy. She never comes up here. But I have 4 black cats. Well, thank you very much, Tilda Wolf. What tribe, or like what nation did your ancestors belong to? You said southern Alberta, Canada, so were they Inuits, or were they like Mohicans or Blackhawks or something? Oh, Blackfoot, I'm sorry. You put it right there. You're a Blackfoot from southern Alberta. Okay, yeah, okay, that's great. Unsolved Mystery Style, get a fog machine. It's so funny you said that, Miter, because I actually almost did buy a fog machine. They're very cheap now, and the stuff they use now, it's not toxic and it doesn't stain anything. And I thought, well, that would be kind of fun to have a little fog machine going when you're telling like spooky true crime or whatever. Andrea McCrae, my pick. Who is Andrea McCrae? What is her like claim to fame? What is she, YouTube, or they were prosecuted even after they converted? Yeah, I know. The Spanish Queen. I know that, and that's, I think, why if I'm right, thank you very much, Andrea, for the donation. I think that's why they ended up in southwestern France, was because they were forced finally to leave, and they may have already converted at that point, but they were still being persecuted, and I had read how they did that. They called them, I forget there was a word they used to use for them where they didn't think they were real Christians. It's just so ridiculous. Like, the Spanish, they had all of that region in the south there where they had Muslims, Jews, and Christians all living in harmony together. And the Spanish Queen Isabella decided, that she was going to basically ethnically cleanse all of Spain and destroyed this civilization that thankfully there's still, remnants of, and see, like was it the Alhambra, or what is that place called in France? But they called them Moriscos too, or Moranos. Yes, Maida, that's right. That's the word. But yeah, it was so weird because in Spain they had all of these cultures living together, and everybody was getting along. And then the Christians decided, well, we don't like that. We're gonna reconquer. I love how they always term it something to make it sound like they had justified. They're gonna reconquer, and that's what Louis XIV said when they took when they took over and annexed where my French ancestors, my father's family, comes from. They called it, they were taking it back, they were reconquering it. And when you look at the history, France at one point for a little period controlled that area, but for the most part it was never French. but somehow they were able to twist it into, they were doing this heroic thing by bringing it back to France, and probably was the worst thing that could happen to them. You'll email me? Okay, yeah, email me, Andrea McCrae. I've never heard of her, so yeah, I'd be interested to see. Alhambra, yeah, it's beautiful. I forget, what's that region of Spain called? I forget what it's called. Oh, I don't know what it is. I'm so bad today. Yeah, Queen Isabella was terrible. She was terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah, Basques. I'm throwing MFs. Yeah, I certainly don't espouse violence of any kind, and, it's like when they finally calmed things down in Northern Ireland, I was so glad, because that just made no sense to me. And honestly, I think Britain should just give Northern Ireland back to Ireland and let them unify, because I don't think religion is the same firebrand issue that it was back then, because even the Catholics in Ireland aren't as Catholic anymore, and they finally just passed a law that making Grenada, yes, thank you, Mike. They finally just passed a law allowing abortion in Ireland. So it's like, and they've got like I don't know if he's still the premier, but they had like a gay premier who wasn't even born in Ireland. So, I think that we live in a completely different world now, and it's like, all that war between the Catholics and Protestants, I think, is just so outdated now, and I think that Ireland should be unified, and I'm sorry to take more land away from the Queen, but I just think that it's the right thing to do. I think that I don't like divided territories like that. And the Basque, I don't condone violence, but I understand their frustration, because the governments of France and Spain aren't that big on respecting cultural and ethnic differences, and they try to, it's like with Brittany, they try to homogenize everybody. And Brittany, they speak Breton, which is a Celtic language, and France doesn't even officially sanction that language, and Brittany's a pretty big place. You would say something, but you don't have any choice? What do you mean? Am I missing something? What do you mean you don't have any choice? CC Suarez did a deep dive on who? On McCrary or McCrae? Your cat lay down in the litter box and fell asleep? Yeah. I used to have a cat that did that too. It used to just drive me crazy. And you see that a lot when you go to the shelters. The cats are sleeping in the litter boxes even though they have a bed. I don't understand why they do that. Hi from Wisconsin. Hi, Barbara. I've been to Wisconsin. I went to a genealogy conference in Milwaukee some time ago. She's a YouTuber? Okay, great. Your friends who are twins, they got totally different results? How's that possible? They got totally are they actually twins? Are they sure they're twins? Because that's weird. You shouldn't get totally different results. I mean, you're not going to have siblings, even if they're identical, I don't think they're going to have exactly... Like my brother and I, if we get tested, they're a little different, even though we have like the same core DNA, but there will be like slight differences. So I know that even siblings don't have identical DNA, but twins, if it's really different, that's weird. That's something's not right there. They should get it tested again, because DNA doesn't just up and change randomly like that. For the most part, she has 2 beds. Thank you. It makes me feel better. Yes, I have heard of that, Autumn. It's really bizarre that cats choose to sleep in their litter boxes when they have a perfectly good bed to sleep in. Well, guys, we're kind of slowing down, so if there isn't a whole lot to talk about, I'm going to end in a few minutes. Sybil's being very faithful. She's sitting right here. And how many people are here? Seven people? 8 people? Wow, we only have 8 people? Oh, that's depressing. Usually we get a lot more than that. Hey, Carly, I wonder if that was not a good time to do this. What do you guys think? What's the best time to do a live stream? Let me know what you think. What do you think is the best time to do a live stream? 29. What's 29? Oh, you're showing 29 people here? Why am I not seeing that? Or maybe it's just the people that are chatting that I'm seeing. You're a twin and you have different results too? Oh, it's similar. Okay. I was going to say, but so it's probably you have like the same core, like your haplogroups should be the same. Like it would be strange because, you know, like Y DNA gets passed from father to son, so you should have the same like Y DNA core in the same like haplogroup or haplotype should be the same. If you have 2 different haplogroups, then something's wrong, and you may not have the same father. The time isn't much of an issue. Okay, in the evening is best. You know, I tried to do it earlier only because we do have some people from overseas, and I know that it's hard for them when it's late. But you know, for me, it's like I like to do it like around 7 o'clock. Do you think that would be better? I wouldn't do it any earlier because I think people are busy during the day. So maybe we'll try it a little bit later next time. It'll probably be easier. Friday night, I could try that. Yeah, maybe Saturday night, because I don't think we've done a Saturday night. I know Sunday when I've done them, they've been really well attended. So, you know, either maybe a Friday night or maybe I'll go back to doing them on Sunday nights, because it seems like there's more people around on Sunday night. It's midnight. Oh, you're in South Africa. How many cats do I have? No, I do not foster. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't think I could give them back once I took them. Because I get very attached to them very fast, and I would hate, like, my mother keeps saying to me, oh, why don't you give away some of your cats? And I'm like, are you crazy? They're like my children. I have 15, to answer your question. I have 15 cats. You're from Loch Lomond? It's 11 o'clock? Yeah, because you guys are 5 hours ahead of us. Sunday night, great. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to, I think the last couple I did were on Sundays, and we had a lot more attendance than we've got right now. So, and I couldn't even keep up with the comments then, and now it's like I'm having no trouble. 17 cats? No, I have 15 cats. I had 19 cats, but over the last 2 or 3 years, 4 of them have passed away from old age, natural causes. But and I decided not to replace them because I think I have more than enough cats. And if I do end up retiring overseas, it's going to be really difficult to move this many cats. So I'm trying to let the number come down. Yeah, Medea, although I have done, for some reason they discontinued the program, but National Geographic had DNA, and they did like the whole thing. It was like a really deep dive, although at the time they didn't have, for like genealogy purposes, they didn't really have a way to analyze a lot of it, but it was like the most complete, and that's the one I did actually second. I did that one second, and hoping that, you know, someday that the information, and actually it's changing where they're starting to be able to give you a lot more information. Yeah, my cats, believe it or not, it's like I have 15 cats, you guys, but only like 4 of them are awake right now. The rest of them are all sleeping. So they're not, it's not like, you know, my mother comes over and I think I've told you guys this before, but she might see 2 or 3 cats. So it's not like you come over and you're surrounded by cats. You know, people think that, oh my God, you have 15 cats. and they think that they must just like they move in a herd. Well, that's not the way cats operate. So they're not like monkeys that all stay in like a troop and move around together. And cats are like, you know, they're spread around the house, and you don't see most of them. You only see a few of them. South of France or Spain, yeah, you know, my daughter actually bought a house in France. It's a small house, but it's in a historic town. I haven't finished restoring it yet because I just don't have the money. But it's a historic property, and it's like in the center of the town. But it's all like stabilized, and the roof is in good shape and stuff. And I brought utilities into the house, but I just haven't had the money to like make it habitable. You know, it's got everything I need to do it. This is not a good time for me to think about it. But, you know, my goal was to turn that into a retirement property, although I've kind of been rethinking that. Although I may keep it, but I'm starting to think that that's probably not exactly where I want to retire to. I actually been looking at Malta. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of or been to Malta. Does Sybil like to be carried around? Yes. Sybil likes to be picked up. And she likes to be with me completely. And she gets mad. Like, I'll go into the kitchen. The kitchen has a French door on it. And my cat Chloe lives in the kitchen and the bathroom that are on the back of the house. Because she doesn't get along with any of the cats. She was a feral cat, and she had PTSD when I adopted her, and she was a very difficult cat for a long time. But now she and I have she's very sweet with me, but she will like go ballistic if she sees another cat. So I keep her there. So I'll go sometimes. I have a laptop, and I'll go in the kitchen. And I have like a rolling like little table, and I'll sit there and put on the TV, and I'll do some work or whatever, or eat in there with her. And Sybil gets really pissed off because she really wants me with her. So when I come out of the kitchen, she comes running and she gives me this voice that I know she's like acting like she's all neglected. Barbara, Timmerman, for the most part, they do all get along. They're just like siblings, where occasionally they will have a little squabble about something, but they never like fight. You know, like when I go to bed, sometimes they give each other shit because I have a group of the cats that likes to sleep on the bed. And if they want to get closer to me, and one of Sybil's very jealous. If they get too close, she gives them a smack. And so there'll be a little bit of that where they might, harass each other. But for the most part, yes, they do all get along. And they will like sleep near each other. And 20 minutes from Paris? $200 to $500? Who's got an apartment that's only $200 to $500 near Paris? When I was looking to buy a house, it's like I couldn't get anywhere near Paris. I had to buy like in the Loire Valley. She was a street cat, and who's the diabetic old man? Actually, I had a diabetic cat. She passed away last year, but I think I talked about it when it happened. Her name was Margot. She's so sweet, and they'd given her up to be euthanized because the person who had her for 13 years decided she didn't want to deal with diabetes, and it was really not a big deal. I was a little nervous at first, but I gave her an injection in the morning and an injection in the evening, and she never even flinched, and it was really easy to do, and it was expensive, and she lived with me for 3.5 years, and she was very, very sweet, and didn't really have any other health problems until she suddenly had a seizure and died. But you hate it. Where are you, Maureen, again? Yeah, Malta was it's actually a place I've never visited. But I started watching like all of these. There's this guy who's in Malta, and he does all of these videos all over Malta. And I started to read up on it and like watch stuff about Malta, and Malta's like a great place to go. It's very liberal. It's got a very good economy. They have very, very low unemployment, real estate is cheaper. The weather's beautiful most of the year. They have one of the world's best healthcare systems. And, it's close enough to Europe that you can, it's cheap. The flights are cheap to fly, like, to mainland Europe from there. And I just thought, wow, that's... And best of all, like, for me, and those of you who are American, English is their second official language. So everybody talks English. They all learn English. They all know English fluently. It's the language they use in business. So, it's like you don't have to know Maltese at all. It's like the shop names and things are all in English and everybody talks English. So, yeah, Medea, Malta's history is one of the things that really fascinates me. There's a lot of really interesting archaeology there. There's a lot of more modern European history too. But, they've got archaeology going back to, prehistory. And I just find it fascinating. And the water is beautiful there. And the weather is, like, they have like 300 and something days of sun a year. And I just thought, wow, that's a great place to go. And you can buy these beautiful little stone townhouses that are really old. And they're not that expensive. So I thought, wow, that'd be great, have townhouse, and most of them have like most of them have rooftop space, but also most of them also have like walled gardens in the back. And I thought that's so beautiful. You can have your rooftop entertainment space, you can have your little garden in the back, and walk to everything, and it'd just be so cool. Maybe get a little scooter. And it's it's a fairly small place, but believe it or not, they have like every amenity you can imagine. They have night Stephanie, thanks for joining us. They have like it was a British colony or colonial possession until the 60s, and so they have like everything there. They have like these 2 shopping malls and all kinds of beautiful stores and anything you want, they've got it. It's like they've got every modern convenience in every chain store. Not that I'm a big fan of chain stores, but anything that you want, they've got it there. Garrett with Ivan the cat, I'll check him out. The Silent Town, yeah, what is it? Some of them call it Mdina, some of them call it Medina, but it's like the old Arabic capital. But yeah, that's beautiful there. The only thing about Medina is that it looks like a really nice place to live. It's very quiet, and except obviously when there's tons of tourists during the high season, but there aren't really a lot of like non-tourist shops and restaurants there. So I think I'd get really bored there. Plus it's inland, so it's not anywhere near the water, which I kind of would like to be near the ocean, and I have to be like where there's civilization so that I can walk to go places. Hi Panda, where's who from? You just asking that generally to the group? Catnip garden, yes, that would be one thing. And also, the walls are usually, in their gardens in Malta, are usually really high. So, like, I could probably let the cats come out in the garden with me, because I wouldn't have to worry about them jumping up and getting away. Not that they'd go anywhere, because I open the front door and they all run. They don't want anything to do with outside. And my cats are 100% indoors. Your black cat straight with clipped ear? Yes, I have a few cats that actually have clipped ears because of that very reason. Me, well, I'm from the Northeast, but that's all I'll tell you. You're not putting them up in storage? No way. Well, no, and Laureen, most countries that are like part of the EU and stuff, they've done away with that whole quarantine thing. They have now what's called a pet passport, and as long as your pets have been kept up to date on their rabies shots and you've got proof with your pet passport from your veterinarian, you don't have to quarantine them anymore. You can just bring them right into the country. So, and Malta lets you bring them in 5 at a time. So I thought, well, depending on how many I have left, it would take me a couple trips to get them over there. But yeah, I don't need, I don't have to have like chain stores, but I want like normal stores. You know what I mean? I don't want like tourist shops and stuff. I want like quality, it could be local goods, I don't care, but it has to be like normal stuff. I don't want to live in a tourist town. I don't care if there's a lot of tourism, I just don't want to live in a tourist town. And Malta has a lot of restaurants, and they have Starbucks. When I saw that they had Starbucks there, I said, okay, well, it's civilization, I can live there. And I think they also have Marks and Spencer from England, connected to their British history. Your cat, Orange Cat, was almost too fat to move. What do you mean too fat to move back? Did they have a weight limit for cats? My cat Jill, he's like over 20 pounds, and he's not like, even though he's big and he is fat, but he's not like, believe it or not, that sounds heavy, but he's not really hugely overweight because he's a very big cat. And he's only got 3 legs, but he still goes up and down the stairs. You hate this country? Well, I don't hate this country because I've got such long ties to it. I just don't like the way it's been evolving lately. And I've got, once when my parents are gone, there won't be anything holding me here. Yeah, I have siblings, but they'll come visit me. I have no doubt about that. But I've got nothing tying me here anymore. So I have no problem leaving the United States. The big island, and you didn't want to leave? Oh, are you talking about Malta or Hawaii? If you're talking about Malta, yeah, it looks really beautiful. The other island, I forget what it's called, but it's beautiful too, but it's just a little too disconnected from civilization. Even though it's beautiful and there's, it's not like it's desolate. There's certainly enough there, but Hawaii, okay. You didn't want to leave? Yeah, Hawaii, I hear, is, one of my cousins used to live there. Extremely expensive. Well, because it's an island, so everything has to arrive by ship or plane. So goods that you need all have to be brought in, and it just, that and the fact that there's so little real estate, of course, the density makes things expensive too. So, but yeah, I mean, the fact that everything you have has to be brought into the country by ship or by plane jacks the cost way up, because it's not convenient to do like regular like mass shipping. Like I know, like in Malta, even though it's not that far from the European coast, like Amazon doesn't have like Prime in Malta, so, which is kind of a bummer because I like live with Amazon for Amazon. So as much as I hate Amazon, I still like the convenience of it. Yes, it is cheaper to retire abroad. You went to college in Hawaii? Wow, that must have been fun. You live in Arkansas? No offense, but yeah, if I lived in Arkansas, I'd be keen to get away too. I've been all over the country, and I'm sorry if any of you live in the South. I apologize, but I really don't like the South. Just from my personal experience, I just don't like it there. I used to like going to Florida, but I'm particularly, and I have family that live in Florida. My brother has a place there, and my sister lives there full time. But I do not like Florida anymore. Yeah, California's expensive. And that is the other thing. It's like, I could sell my house because where I live, real estate is really expensive. And even though I only have like a modest house, it's still worth a lot more than I paid for it. And I could take the profit and, have a nice little bit of money in the bank if I moved overseas. Hi, Rochelle. Yeah, Florida's expensive. The politics are horrible. My, grandparents, my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandparents all retired to Florida, and they would come back up here to the Northeast for summertime because it's so gross down there. But it just doesn't do it for me. I used to like to go to Miami, and I am not in any hurry to go back there either. In Arizona, hot, yeah. I like the desert, but I couldn't live in the desert. Like I like to go to Palm Springs. When I lived in LA, I used to like to go there on the weekends sometimes, and it was really hot and dry, but I could not live there. There's no way I could live there. You know, I don't like the cold, but I don't like the heat, hot heat. Hi, Rousey. Nice to see you. Yeah, you're late, but you're here. 30 years. Oh, so you didn't grow up in Arkansas. But yeah, I mean, if I had to live in the South, it certainly wouldn't. It would have to be in one of the bigger states. It just drives me crazy to be anywhere rural. Like even in Ohio, which is a northern state, where my grandfather and my great grandparents were from in the South, there in Appalachia. You know, it used to be a big coal mining country, and just, oh my God, I could never live there. It just is too backwoods for me. You know, there's some pretty scenery, but I just could not live in a place like that. I have to live in like civilization. Toronto's not for me. Yes. Well, Rochelle, I have been to Toronto many times, and honestly, I've never been a huge fan of Toronto. I have my great grandmother and other family members are from Montreal and Quebec, so you know I've been to Quebec a lot, and it's as we would say in the Northeast. Pardon my language, but we have an expression: it's colder than a witch's tit. So Montreal in the winter, and I've been there often in the winter, is so goddamn cold. I don't know how my ancestors did it for 200 years living in Montreal, because I could never live there. It's way too cold. What one life lesson has been the most profound in my time on Earth? I don't know. I guess, and like I told my nephew, he's older now, but I used to say to him, credit cards are not your friend, and always wear sunscreen. So those are like, if I had to impart anything to anybody, I'd say be very, very conservative with your use of credit. When I was younger, I had a tendency to think that it was like free money, and so I definitely would counsel people to watch out with the use of credit, because the older you get, the more you find that you will need it for certain purchases, and wear sunscreen, because, you know, like I've said before, my siblings all have like lines in their eyes and crow's feet, and my skin is a lot better shape than theirs. It's because I avoid the sun and I wear sunscreen. What's for polar bears? The cold? Epcot and visit all the countries? Yeah. Well, not all the countries, but I like to go to when I go to Paris. When I go to Disney World, I like to go to the France area, and I love to eat. Every time we've ever been to Disney World, we always make a reservation at the French restaurant there, because they actually do have people from France working there. Phoenix is the hottest place. Yeah, I can't imagine. You know, I've landed in Phoenix. I've never been to Phoenix, and I've seen a lot of, you know, pictures and video of Arizona. It's very beautiful in places, but I just could not live there. Not only that, but like, I hate snakes, and I hate desert crawly things, and I know in populated areas it's probably not an issue, but it just creeps me out. It's like when I was looking at Malta as a possible place, the first thing I looked at was, what kind of snakes do they have, and do they have any poisonous spiders? And luckily, they only have 2 types of snakes, and even though they're both venomous, neither of them is particularly detrimental to humans, and they tend to flee humans, and they only have one poisonous spider, and we have the same in the U.S., and it's a brown recluse. So, and even that, they said it's rare to see them. So I said, okay, Malta's okay then. I don't have to worry about creepy crawly things. You absolutely love Florida? Yes, they do have nice beaches. Like when I would go to Miami, and I used to go a lot to Miami, The beaches are beautiful. But I couldn't live there. I just couldn't live there. Arizona or Alabama? Yeah, Max, if I had to choose between those two, I think I'd probably go to Arizona too. They only heating and air conditioning? Yeah, definitely. If you're in a place where the temperature fluctuates like that, Hawaii has no snakes? Really? They have no snakes? That's surprising. I didn't know that. I mean, I know they have spiders, but, oh, that's funny. No snakes. That's interesting. I'm taking my mother to, speaking of islands, I'm taking my mother to Iceland for her birthday. Because Iceland is a place I've been, but it's a place she's always talking about. She's like, oh, someday we should go to Iceland. Someday we should go to Iceland. I'm like, Mom, how much older are you going to get before someday gets here? So I haven't told you yet, but I booked a trip to Iceland. We're only going for a couple days, but she talks about it all the time. Ever since I went to Iceland, she's like brought it up. I can't tell you how many times. And so I just finally said, we're going. And you know what? It's so funny because right after I booked the trip, they have these volcanoes that don't erupt like a traditional volcano, and they call them tourist volcanoes. One of them just started erupting, so they've got the lava flow. You can actually go and see the red hot live lava flows without, being in danger, because they're not explosive volcanoes. And so I thought, oh my God, this is so perfect. And they said tourism all of a sudden is ticking up. I'm like, great, I'm glad we booked the trip before that happened. So I thought, well, that's cool. We'll be able to hopefully get to see the volcano too, which would be kind of cool. Mongoose, oh, where? In Hawaii? Would I ever go to the Caribbean, Rousey? Would I live there? No. And the reason is because I've been to the Caribbean a lot. I used to work in the hotel business a long time ago, and I worked for hotels in Aruba and Bonaire and Curacao. And I've been, all over the Caribbean. And I love the weather. I love the beach. But I think I would probably lose my freaking mind being on one of those islands year-round, because there's just not enough civilization there. And when I say civilization, I mean like, normal stores and restaurants that are not catering to a tourist crowd. And so if I can't walk and go somewhere to go like shopping or whatever, I lose my mind. I want to be able to go to the restaurants and the stores and have things to do, museums and other stuff to do. I'm not a huge beach person, and I think I would lose my mind if I lived in the Caribbean. Yes, I've been to Pittsburgh. I went to a conference in Pittsburgh once. I spent a whole week in Pittsburgh, and back then it wasn't as nice as it is now. And it's maybe not the greatest city in terms of since the industrial age kind of petered out in the U.S., but we had a great time in Pittsburgh. Orlando's changed in the last 20 years. Yes, it definitely has. It's, Florida's become rapidly more populous, and like my uncle bought a house down there, my brother bought a house down there, my sister lives there full time, and it's just like the expanding. It's like they build new developments everywhere. Yeah, Rochelle, I've got to have stuff to do. I want a movie theater that has all the current movies, and I want normal restaurants that aren't overpriced, and I want stores and stuff like that to do. But that's why I thought Malta is like perfect, because it's got civilization, it's got history, and it's got water, which I love. The beaches aren't the greatest, but again, I'm not a real beach person, although I like being near the water. And so I thought, well, it's perfect. Swamp coolers. What's a swamp cooler? Introduce me to all your cats. Yes, I will, Caitlin. A lot of people have asked me that, and it's so hard, like for me to get a whole lot of them into the videos, because they literally don't come around. So I have to like drag them away. But yes, I've introduced you guys to a lot of them. But yes, I will I'll try to include some more cats. If not, maybe make a video about the cats. You also want loved ones around? Yeah. But like I said, like my grandparents are all dead, and once my parents die, I love my siblings, but they, like my sister, one of my sisters lives in Florida, one of my sisters lives in Georgia, my brother still lives in my old hometown. So it's not like I have family like next door. You know what I mean? People don't stay in the same, area anymore. So it's if I go live in Malta, it's, the one good thing is people will come, My family likes to travel, so, I know they'll come and stay with me, So I definitely would have to have like a 2 or 3 bedroom place. But, yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about being lonely because I don't see my siblings that often now, and I live in the U.S., So I probably would see them just as often if I lived overseas. Germany, yeah, castles and museums. I've been to Germany, but I haven't been to some of the places I want to go in Germany. Sybil is 9, or she might be 10 now. So she's not that old. She's still got a ways to go. So, because cats live to be pretty old, which is one of the reasons I like them. How did I end up doing drama commentary on YouTube? Well, I was in a relationship for 20 years. We split up. I stayed in the house and had lots of free time since I didn't have an adult child living with me anymore, and just decided it was something that interested me because I was watching stuff on YouTube, and I said I'd like to try doing that. And I think I've done okay. Bye, my pink. Good night. What is a swamp cooler, you guys? Do I have any unique breeds? I don't really have breeds of cats, Morgan. My cats are all just your typical, because they're all rescues. Sybil's really my only purebred cat. And she was a rescue cat, not a rescue cat, I should say. I adopted her from a shelter, a no-kill shelter. But I adopted her, I didn't buy her. I've only ever bought a cat once. And it was a Siamese. Only pardon order sashimi for your cats? Oh, your cats are lucky. I don't even know if mine would eat it, to be honest with you. My cats are weird. I was telling you about my cat Chloe that lives in the back part of the house. She will not touch human food. I try to give her pieces of things I'm eating, like if I'm having some kind of fish or something, and she won't eat it. She'll smell it. She might lick her lips. I could leave, a whole bowl of shrimp on the floor, and she wouldn't touch it. Yeah, Medea, I read that less than 2% of channels ever get to 10,000 subs, and I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Then, so I guess I should be happy with my progress. 20-year relationship, yes, if I could only take those 20 years back and be back in my prime, I would be very happy about that. Because I feel like I wasted 20 years of my life. I hate to say that to those of you who are younger, but I feel like I wasted 20 years of my life now. They ate yours at dinner once, and I just ordered for them. That's so funny. Yeah, no, my cats are strange. They will eat, and I never give them junk to eat, but I'll give them a piece of chicken or something that's just plain with nothing on it, because I don't want them eating junk. But most of them really have no interest in table scraps. You would love to watch a video about my relationship? No. No, there will never be a video about my relationship. It was, not like it was a horrible relationship, but literally it was like living with an adult child. And yes, I've learned many life lessons, but Andrea, honestly, I did not gain anything from that relationship. I can say that with absolute confidence that I gained nothing from that relationship. I gave a lot in that relationship and didn't get anything back. So my life lesson is, don't get married when you're young, and don't move in too soon, and just realize that half of all marriages end in divorce. So keep that in mind. You know, that's why I've always been so surprised that people spend so much on their weddings. It's like, I mean, I understand it's a sentimental day, but why do you need 200 people there? You don't like most of them. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding, and you know, if you end up divorced in 5 years, it's like, what a waste. Put that down in a house or pay off bills or whatever. Onward and upward, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm in no hurry to get back in a relationship. You know, I've had 3 long-term relationships. I know now that makes me sound really old, but they weren't all 20 years. But I've had 3 serious long-term relationships, and the second one was probably the only one that I would wish to go back to, but and the first one's dead. So and I actually just found that out a month or so ago. He's been dead for 10 years, and I didn't even know he was dead. And it was really weird because I don't feel sad. Because I didn't really... He wasn't a really nice person. So, as much as I do feel something when I found that out, but I'm not like... I didn't cry over it. But the second one's the only one that if you want to talk about true love, the second one was the only one that was like true love. Yeah, thanks, Rousey. But like I said, he's been dead for 10 years. That shows you how out of touch I am. And I just found out by accident, actually. And I just was like, oh, wow, that's really weird that he's dead. So, and I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I'm like, it's just because it's just so, you know, it just, I didn't expect someone that I had a relationship to be dead at this stage of my life, because we're not old enough to be dead. So it was kind of weird. So I have a feeling there's, you know, the obituary doesn't say a whole lot. I have a funny feeling that it may have been self-inflicted. Either that or he had cancer, I don't know. But usually if they do, they'll like make some kind of mention about a long illness or something in the obituary, and said absolutely nothing. So that makes me think that something unnatural happened. So, and I'm not going to delve into it just because I don't want to know. Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to mourn him because honestly, we were in a relationship 36 years ago. So, is the second one single? No, he's not single. And, you know, I was at a bad time in my personal space when I was with the second one, and it was before I got sober, and so, you know, if I could do it again, it would probably be very different than it was. You're on marriage number 2. Yeah, there you go. Yes, and I always tell, I'm like, don't get married before you're 30. You know, I don't care how much you think you love them. I hate to be cynical, but very few relationships are going to last forever. So, well, my parents were only married for 8 years before they got divorced. So I was a little kid when my parents got divorced. But my mother was married to her second husband for a long time until he died. So, thank you very Morgan Jane. Thanks very much. You know, it's my skin comes from my French grandmother, and I stay out of the sun. I've always said, even when I go to the beach, I'm like hat, glasses, lots of sunscreen, zinc on my nose. So I've always, because when I was a kid, I was towhead blonde, as they call it, and I fry so easily in the sun. I could be like, I was out working in the yard, and I didn't put anything on, and I came back in and my skin was pink. So, and I was only out there for like half an hour. But so that's why my, you know, I don't really have any wrinkles. You know, I have like just like, I'm sorry to get like those lines that you get here, but you know, that's not really a big deal. But like, I have no crow's feet at all. I don't have any lines around my eyes. And the lines in my forehead, I literally have had since I was a teenager, so those aren't from age. Those just have always been there. So, knock on wood, it's like, I just take care of my skin. So, how did I get into law? Okay, so, what kind of law do I practice? Well, right now, and for the last 6 years, I've been doing landlord-tenant, and I do some discrimination lawsuits and some small claims litigation, mostly landlord-tenant stuff, because it's very lucrative for my boss, not so much for me, but it's one of the areas that it's recession-proof, and in fact, when there's a recession, there's more business. So, and I've been a lawyer now for 14 years. And how did I... Well, I always wanted to go to law school. Even when I was in college, I wanted to go. But at that point in my life, I really couldn't afford it. And, I mean, I couldn't afford it when I finally ended up going to law school. But I taught school for a year. I taught in an inner city school. And I taught 5th grade. And the 3 subjects I taught were history, reading, and writing. Let me tell you, most kids don't like those subjects, but in the inner city, they really don't like those subjects, especially the history. They have no interest whatsoever in history. And they were the worst kids. They just, I mean, so different than when I was a little kid. It's like, they just, they're so brash and bold and mouthy and disrespectful, and they drove me almost insane. And I said, I am never doing this for 20 years just so I can get a fucking government pension. I was like, that's it, I'm going to law school. I wanted to go to law school, I'm going to go now before it's too late. Yeah, I wouldn't be a teacher ever again. I wouldn't. I might teach a college class, but I would never be a teacher again. Could I see myself getting married in the future? Yeah, I could. I'm in no hurry. Like, I'm perfectly happy right now being single and living alone. I have only lived alone before for like 5 years of my whole adult life. So this is the first time obviously in over 20 years I've lived alone, and I'm really happy about it because I can make my own schedule. I don't have to, I hate to say it selfishly, but I don't have to think about anybody else right now. And I've got the cats. I don't ever feel lonely. The cats keep me company. I work a lot. I go to court a lot. So, I don't feel lonely at all. Yeah, middle school, yeah. It was the worst. And they're so sexually advanced from when I was a little kid. They talk about sex all the time. I was like, you guys are in 5th grade. What the hell are you talking about sex for? No, they don't get paid enough. We got paid really shitty money. But, what I thought about it was, if I do it for 20 years, I'll have a pension. But, no, it wasn't worth it to me. Would I go on a dating one? No, I would never. I've never met someone on a dating website, and I honestly, I'm at a point in my life where that's not, if I meet somebody, it's going to be some other way. I'm in no hurry to start playing, Russian roulette with dating websites. Yeah, I have no interest in it. Yeah, puberty hits early. It's weird. I just was shocked, actually, and I'm not an easily shockable person, but these kids, the things they were saying, I was like, holy crap. I wasn't even thinking about this when I was in 5th grade. What is going on with you people? Your mother's on her 3rd marriage? Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I just don't think that, I think you need to be realistic when you start a serious relationship with somebody. I'm not saying that, you should be pessimistic, but you should be realistic and realize that the odds are not in your favor, so make what you can of it while it's going on. Yeah, thanks, Chrissy. honest to God, it's so great. It's like I eat when I want, I watch what I want. You know, my ex used to control the freaking TV, which drove me fucking crazy. So I would watch a lot of TV when I went to bed. And that's why I have the biggest TV in the house is in my bedroom. Because I would watch a lot of TV, and I had bought like wireless headphones, some good ones, and I would watch TV at night. Because I got so sick and tired of him controlling the goddamn TV all the time and deciding what we were going to watch. And, you know, and I don't watch half the shows that we used to watch. Because I just don't care about them. So, yeah, you're on your own. You know, I can go where I want, do what I want. Nobody tells me what to do. I don't have to consider anybody else's schedule. And, you know, it's great. And that's why I started, this all stemmed from somebody asked me how I started doing YouTube. And it's because I finally had time where I could think about hobbies and things again that I really hadn't thought about in the longest time. And actually, and also, and please, I'm not having a pity party, but when I got sober, I literally had to give up all of my friends. And I was at an age where it started to get really hard to make friends. And to be honest with you, I literally have like no friends. No close friends. You know, I have like acquaintances and stuff, but I literally have no friends. So it's a little strange because I have a lot of time on my hands. So that's one of the reasons I started doing YouTube, because it was something that interested me, and I thought, you know, why not? I have all the time I need, nobody's interrupting me, and I can just do what I want. So if you want to be a teacher, try and become what's a Dodia teacher? A military teacher? Huh. That's interesting. I don't know if yeah, but do you stay in one place, or you like periodically get moved around like the military? I don't want to ever do that. Found your husband on eHarmony? Well, that's good. I'm not saying the dating websites are bad. It's just like, it's not really my thing, you know? I think that everyone that I've ever had a relationship with, we met in person, like not knowing each other at all beforehand, not having any communication beforehand. Because, you know, I think the chemistry you can't, obviously you have to go on a lot of dates if you're doing dating websites, because you don't know, you know, you can read their profile, but you don't know until you meet them. And when I was dating a long time ago, my first question always was, do you like cats? And if they said no, or they said I'm allergic, I would end the date right there and say, this is not going to work. And I would literally leave the date. So, that was always my first question. It's like, you know, the thing that you could tell what's the most important. Who needs TV when you have YouTube? Oh, I still like TV. Like, I like British television. So, I have, believe it or not, you know, I know a lot of the younger kids are so ageist, but I've always been, bye Rochelle, you have a nice night too. I've always been an early adopter with technology, because I've always just been fascinated by technology. So, you know, I'm extremely tech savvy. And actually, everyone in my family comes to me when they have a problem. My mother calls me all the time. What do I do? What do I do? But I have one of those Android TV boxes. So you can do what's called side loading, which is you can take like an app and you can load it onto, even though it's not in like the app store, you can load it onto the Android TV box. And then I have a VPN, so you can go to these websites where you can download like the package. It's called like the APK, that it contains the program file for the app. And like I've got all the like the BBC, Channel 4, and not Channel 4, I forget what it's called, but I have like the three main like British broadcasting apps on my TV box. And because I have a VPN, I always turn it into London, so that when I go on, I don't get a message that says you're not in an area where this is available. And I watch in the UK, like all of those apps, all the programming's free. So I've got all this on-demand TV from the United Kingdom that I can watch. And I love watching like British mystery shows and stuff like that, and I like some of their how-to stuff. ITV, yep, I have ITV. ITV, BBC, maybe it is Channel 4. Yeah, it's called All 4, it's called. So I have, those are the 3 that I have. And it allows me to watch all of the British TV, which is great. Because, you know, we get some of the programs here on, like, Masterpiece and things, but when you have the apps, you can watch those shows a lot of times, like, months before they ever get to the US TV. Only Way is Essex, yeah, I'm familiar with that show. But I love, like, all of, like, the cop shows in England and all the, like, the murder mystery shows, and I like a lot of their, they have a lot of, like, historical documentaries and things that I really like. Love Island? No, it's not for me, but I've seen YouTube shows about Love Island where they make fun of Love Island, so I'm familiar with the show. It's just not really up my alley. So, oh, Love Island? Yeah, I thought a new season had just happened, so I don't think it's over, is it? Do I want to see? Well, no. If you're meeting them in person, I'm not talking about setting up a blind date. I'm talking about you just meet people. You know, everyone I've ever had a relationship with, I just met in real life. You know, like out and about. So yeah, I mean, obviously you see them, but you know, the chemistry. You can. Good night, Max. The chemistry. You can tell. You can't tell until you're face to face with someone. Midsummer Murders. Yep, I like that show. That and Grantchester is one of the series I like, and oh, what are some of the other ones? But there's some really great shows, and the only thing about British show is they, you know, the seasons are so short. They call them the series there, we call them seasons here, but they're so short. They're usually only like 5 or 6 episodes, which drives me crazy because it's not enough. Anne H, I think it's tragic. I mean, and you know, it sounds like she was drunk, and you know, it's sad, but you know, I mean, everybody makes choices, and I'm not saying that I don't think it's sad that she's dead. I'm just saying that, you know, the circumstances don't surprise me, to be honest with you. Drinking and driving, you know, that was always a rule that I had when I was drinking, was I do not get in my car. Peaky Blinders, no. You know, Rousey, but I've been meaning to start that one. I especially like to binge watch shows. So I'll watch shows I've never seen before that I discover on, hey! Cedric is scratching the couch. My cats don't usually scratch the furniture. When they do, it's because they're trying to get my attention. But when I discover like a new show that I like on one of the British TV networks, I'll binge watch it, you know, because usually by the time I find it, there's several seasons. So I'll go and I'll just literally watch every single episode in a row until I finish it. And I love doing that. I love to binge watch stuff. Gogglebox? No, you know, I've never seen that. I'm familiar with it. I just never watched it. Yes, I plan on doing, Caitlin, I am planning on doing more true crime. And I don't have any other murderers in my family that I'm aware of, so the next one won't be about my family. On Netflix, Behind Her Eyes. Why does that sounds familiar to me. I'll look. I have Netflix. I'll look and see. Oh, Gogglebox? What? Gogglebox, isn't that like people watching TV? That show, it's not like recaps, right? I thought it was like people watching television and reacting to it. They said it was cocaine. That's even sadder, because I mean, addiction, no matter what the substance is really tragic. So many people, like my best friend in the whole world, unfortunately, he was also an alcoholic, and he was never going to stop drinking. I knew he was never going to stop. So when I got sober, I had to stop being best friends with him. And just a few years ago, he actually died. And what happened was he ended up getting, not only still drinking, but getting into heroin. And he he died of an overdose. And I found out a few months after it happened, and it just devastated me because, it's like, and, my mother was like, oh my God, thank God you stopped drinking. I was like, I know, well, it's probably a good thing I stopped hanging around with him. As sad as I am that he died, I still am glad, I'm glad I got sober, and I'll never ever go back to drinking again. See the reaction, see if it's worth watching. Maybe I'll have to watch it then. Yes, Luther was a great show. Michelle, I watched every season of that. And that I didn't binge watch. I watched it, as they came out. But yes, I love that show. And of course, my favorite of all times is Absolutely Fabulous. It's like, I piss my pants every time I watch that show, no matter how many times I've seen the episode. I love that show. And if there are any of you here who have never seen the British series Absolutely Fabulous, you have not lived until you watch it. So you need to go, and I think it's on Netflix, maybe has it. You have got to watch Absolutely Fabulous because you will die. It is the best sitcom ever in the history of sitcoms. And I've met Joanna Lumley, who plays Patsy, the blonde one, and she was so nice. And she was doing a play in New York, and I waited by the stage door because that's how much I wanted to meet her, and she spent 10 minutes with me, and it was just so awesome. Game of Thrones, oh yes, I watched, and I didn't discover Game of Thrones. I mean, I knew about it, but it never piqued my interest until it was after the 4th season, and then I binge watched 4 seasons because I couldn't stop watching it. I had to watch every season, but I think everybody else feels this way. The very last episode was absolutely, I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote that episode. It just devastated me because it killed the whole series. It was so uncharacteristic. The whole episode just didn't make any sense to me. And it ruined the series for me. Yes, I met Joanna, Daisy. She is very, very nice. And she even asked me, how was I? Was I okay? And I said, why are you asking me? I'm not a critic. I'm not, you don't even know me. And I was like, you were great. Of course you were great. But she's really nice. She does a lot of charity work too. And I think she came from a really wealthy family, but she is just so down to earth. She's really nice. What did I think of the ending? Yeah, like I said, Rousey, I absolutely ruined the series for me. It did. It destroyed the whole series for me. I just sat there at the end with my mouth open like, what? This is not how this would, if you were following the characters the way they've developed, this is not how it would play out at the end. When she ordered the dragon to burn the city even after they capitulated, I said she would never have done that. I mean, come on, what do you people do? And then when he kills her at the end, I'm like, this is not how it would go if you were being true to the series. This is not how these characters would do it, And so I just was so disappointed at the end of the way they wrapped it up. Because up until then, I thought it was one of the best TV series I'd ever seen. Yeah, overdoses, and the thing is that they just cut it. The heroin was such, fentanyl. And people don't realize how the stuff they're using, how it fluctuates, from batch to batch. And that's how a lot of people die. They end up, they don't realize how potent whatever they're using is. Yes, I am going to watch House of the Dragon, Heather. I'm not boycotting his stuff. I just was very disappointed I wish they would reshoot. Honest to God, I wish they would make a whole new last episode and redeem themselves, because I think they did everybody a disservice with how they ended that show. Did I watch Breaking Bad? No. And it might be one of those shows that if I watched it, I might get into it, but that never interested me, and that What was that one about the serial killer? That one never interested me either. Mad Men, my uncle loved it. I've never watched it, to be honest with you. If my uncle loved it, we have the same kind of personalities. So if he thought it was great, I probably would think it was good. So I might watch that at some point. Oh my god, it's 7 o'clock. You guys, I'm going to wrap it up in a minute. I haven't fed these beasts yet. Dexter, yeah, Cindy. It just never appealed to me. Better Call Saul, I've heard good things about too. I've never watched that. I tend to be more of like a murder mystery, true crime kind of person. And the other side of my personality is anything period drama I love. I love period dramas. Like when the new Downton Abbey movie came out, I couldn't wait to go see it. Because I love that show so much. And I just love period dramas. I've probably seen almost every period drama that's ever been made because every time one comes out, I get excited like a little kid because it's something new to watch. And even every time they remake a Jane Austen story, I watch it, even though I know the story already. But they remake them periodically, and so I love watching new versions to see the way they treat the story. Deep Water. What was that about? That sounds familiar. The other thing is, I'm really bad with titles of shows and things. I can and even names of movies. You'll ask me a couple months after I've seen something, I can't tell you what the name of it was anymore. I can tell you what it's about, but I can't remember what the name was. Yeah, Cindy, I probably will watch Mad Men. Does the picture behind me have a story? People ask me that all the time. It does have a story, but I don't know anything about the painting. I know who the artist is, and he is a listed British artist, and it's from the 1850, I think it was painted. But the story is, there's an auction house up the street from me that most of their... Cedric's knocking stuff off my desk. Cedric, they want to eat. There's an auction house up the street from me, and most of their bidders are online bidders, even though the auctions are live. And this painting came up at auction, and I love old paintings. I have a lot of old paintings. Nothing particularly valuable, but if they're, and I love especially portrait paintings. If they're really good quality, I like portraits. But and I like landscapes. But this came up, and it's huge. You can see it's huge. It weighs a ton. Came up for auction, and I was the only person that bid on it. I bid the opening bid. That's all I had bid on it. And I thought, because sometimes you get lucky. Nobody else bid on it, and the reason they didn't is because it would have had to been crated up and shipped, and it would have cost more than the painting's worth probably to ship it somewhere. So nobody wanted it, and I got it for a very reasonable price, and I had to rent a pickup truck to go get it, and even then it was half hanging out of the pickup truck, and I needed 3 people to help me hang it. I had to screw screws into the joists in the ceiling to hold it up. So it's a big heavy painting, but I love it because it takes up more than half the wall. Chaotic Husband. Oh no! I have not seen that. I'll have to look that up. Have I watched Art Detective? Yes, I love that show. Fake or Fortune? Yes, I love that show where they go and they find masterpieces that are museums and things don't realize that they're masterpieces in their storerooms and things like that, or people's houses. I love that show. I think that's fascinating. I'm not usually really big onto art shows, but that show I like. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up because Cedric's here now, and he wants to eat. and they all want to eat. I'm surprised they're not all pestering me right now. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you know, people think that like antique art is expensive, and it's not. You know, a lot of times you can pick these things up. You know, not necessarily one this big, but you can pick up a nice painting for not a whole lot of money. And sometimes they need to be cleaned, and I actually know how to clean them. So I've bought paintings really cheap before that were like yellow, and I've cleaned them, and then they look beautiful, you know, because they're usually, it's either bad varnish or they come from a house with a lot of nicotine, and so they look like shit. But once you clean them up, then they come back to life, you know. What's on the painting? It's a woman in the woods. It's winter time. She's got her dog with her. She's sitting at one of these like shrines that they build. It's almost like a little chapel, but it's not. It's just a shrine. It's got like some kind of religious statue up in the niche, and she's like lost in the woods, because off to the side what you can't see is, in the dark, is like this, like almost like a dream bubble where there's like people with torches and dogs out looking for her. Cedric, come on. He's being a pain in the ass now. They're out looking for her, so she's like basically lost in the woods, but it's really nice quality, and it's really good, a good painting. So, and I actually cleaned this one myself. If I had tried to get this professionally done, it would have cost me a fortune. Yeah, it is. And you know, I thought when I hung it up, I was like, oh, that's the perfect backdrop. I had bought like a thing to hold one of those fake backdrops up, but then I used this one in the first video, and I thought, oh, this looks good. I like this. So I just put the lights on and keep this here. And actually, it's getting dark. I don't even have any light on right now. Art restorers, yeah. There's I forget that one guy's name that's in the Midwest, but I've actually talked to him because I have 2 paintings I want him to clean up, and they need a little bit of restoration, and I want him to do them. And his quotes were pretty reasonable, so I'm probably going to send him those 2 paintings to fix. I have one. It's a painting. It's a beautiful portrait of a guy who actually lived 2 towns over from where I live. And the painting came from, I forget where I bought it from, but it wasn't from this area. I think I bought it from an auction house in the Midwest. And it had his like name and dates and like place name on the frame. And so I actually found this guy's grave. I know who he is, but the painting's got a tear in it. It doesn't affect like the main part of the painting, but like in the background's got a little tear in it, and I want it fixed and cleaned and stuff. So thank you, Christy. Good night, Vera. And you know, I think I'm going to say good night to you guys. It's 10 after 7, and I've got to eat, they've got to eat, and I'm probably going to go to bed early tonight because I didn't sleep that great yesterday. So thank you guys all for joining me. I really appreciate it. And we'll do another one soon, and we'll do it on Sunday night, because it seems like we got the best turnout when I did the 2 I did on, like, I think they were both on Sunday nights. We got a much higher turnout. So we'll probably do this again on a Sunday in a couple weeks, and I'll let you guys know far in advance. But thank you so much for joining me. Good night, all of you guys, and I'll probably have a video about that silly juice lawsuit tomorrow. I just have to record it and then edit it, but I've got all the research done, and I've got like all the documents and things together already. So it's not a whole lot of work I've got to do. I just got to put it together. But thanks for joining me. All of you have a good night, and I will see you guys very soon. Thanks a lot, you guys.